All right. Good morning. Good morning, folks. Joe Mangiacotti here, Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Good morning, Jazz. I didn't hear you. I'm sure you're there, Jazz. Good morning. We got to knock that audition off because I'm.
Here we go. And everything good?
Yeah, you're very low on my ear, but that's okay. I can still hear you. All right, folks. Good morning. Sunday edition. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is AM 830 WCRN. Powerhouse station here, 50,000 watts of power coming your way. And we can, we'll do some housekeeping. To join the conversation, 508-8717-1000. That's 508-8717-1000. And that's how you get into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. You can also text us in real time at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. You can also text us, or I should say email us, if you don't have the ability to text. If you just email textjoeintheradio@gmail.com, it appears on the same screen, and we're good to go. All right, we got a lot to talk about this morning. Lines are open and available, so please feel free to drop in. A couple things on my mind, folks. Look, we have President Biden signing 17 executive orders the first day and another 27 executive orders in 48 hours. Do the math. Right? 27 orders in 48 hours. And what that tells you is we're looking at a third term for Barack Obama, because you have got to know exactly what it is that you're signing and going to sign to go in. I don't think Joe seemed to, if you watched it, he seemed a little confused on what he was signing at a few times, and don't know whether he thought he was looking at a menu or signing, but the point is he signed these, and they were all prepared and all set to go, reversing most of the Trump stuff. And that's the problem I have on that, is he reversed, it's as if you're reversing these executive orders, and that's the drawback, folks, right? All across the board when it comes to executive orders, they're easily undone by the next guy. And maybe there should be a little more. The Founding Fathers understood that from time to time we needed that ability to create an executive order for various reasons. But when they're used to be legislation, when they're used to act more as a dictate than as a asset or to help out, then there's a problem with that right there, right? So 27 executive orders. The second 10 there mainly do with COVID, and we'll talk about that. But I have a problem with no explanation of any of this. They didn't give a reason, right? We saw the first press conference given, right, 7 o'clock on Inauguration night, and we'll talk about a love fest there. Will President Biden keep Donald Trump's Air Force One schematic? Is that what he's going to do? I mean, with everything going on in the world, that's what you're going to use your White House poll question for on Inauguration Day, with a pandemic and suffering economy and problems with China. You're going to ask about the color of the airplane. Good reporter. So there's no explanation with any of these executive orders. They just do them. And one of the executive orders is putting an end to the Keystone Pipeline. And putting an end to the Keystone Pipeline, that is a ripple effect, guys, right? Because remember, Donald Trump stood there in a rally in Pennsylvania and said, mark my words, he will take your jobs. He's coming for them, and he'll take your jobs. And Joe Biden said, no, I won't. I will keep your jobs. I'm a union guy, the scrapper from Scranton, which is also kind of a farce. And what has happened? Day one, he reverses the Keystone Pipeline. He gets the Canadian, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister up there, pissed off. You know how far you have to go to piss off a Canadian? So he's hurting jobs on both sides of the border. Here in the United States of America, in our allies and friends to the north, he's killed jobs. Not a couple jobs, not a couple hundred jobs, thousands of jobs, good paying jobs, which also is responsible in a huge part in making the United States energy independent, which gives us all kinds of stature and power globally, and allows us not to be holding to any one particular nation. It's a problem, folks, and it's a problem that we don't get an explanation. This is why this is better. And quite frankly, it really seems beyond petty, and it's like, I am going to change these because Trump put him in. I don't like Trump, and Trump is bad man. Period. Done. End of conversation. 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phone. Just said Richard was waiting. Good morning, Richard. How are you, sir?
It's cold out there, but it's nice and warm in here. I got my wood stove going.
Now,
about 75.
I could have guessed that you had a wood stove. A New Hampshire guy.
You would have, really.
And I mean, it's not a far leap to assume that you have one.
No, I've been ready since the year 2000. Y2K, Joe. That's how far ahead I was.
Yeah, wasn't there? I thought that there was some taxes or regulation kind of attacking wood stoves. It seems like all of a sudden, we can't grow whatever we want on our own land. They don't want us to be, self-sufficient with heat, and it's kind of make you wondering what's the bigger picture going on here. Why are there so many regulations and taxes coming down on wood burning and pellet burning stoves? And we find regulations about gardens now, right? I mean, this initially, right?
Oh.
We used to grow what we needed to eat in our own property. I mean, even back at the turn of the early 1900s, people
World War
still
II.
had gardens.
Yeah.
And
World War II. Everybody had their own gardens.
My grandmother, my mother told me that my father's mother would whatever was in the garden that day, they picked that day, was on the dinner table that night. It was just a daily occurrence.
That's right.
I mean, we're not talking
hundreds
of years ago, but crazy. What's on your mind this morning?
All right. First of all, you were talking about executive orders.
Yeah.
I want to tell you exactly where they came from. All right, and basically they came from FDR, right? Because what happened is FDR, when he came in, he saw that all these federal agencies, they were sending out regulations and they were going after people and stuff like that. So he decided that he was going to change all this, or he was going to try and change all of it. Although he liked the regulation stuff that they were making, even though they didn't have the authority. So what he did, he came up with the Federal Register Act of 1935. In 1935, what Roosevelt did, he took the executive office, which was the president, and what he did, he brought it into the Federal Register Act. It's there if anybody wants to go see it. I don't know the number, but I could get the number. And basically what it is, the President of the United States is now a federal agency, Joe. Most people don't know that. And that's why they can make these executive orders willy-nilly the way they want, Joe. Anytime they want to make an executive order, they can. But there's only one problem to that, okay? The regulation has to show up in the Federal Register, okay? And when Truman came into office, the IRS and all the other agencies, they weren't complying with the Federal Register. So what they did is they came out with the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946. And in this act, they told all these agencies they had to make administrative procedures regulations, and that's what's called substantive regulations. And there's a Supreme Court case, Joe. It's Chrysler v. Brown, 1979. It's a holding, still hasn't been changed. It's good law, and it states there that the only regulations that all of these agencies can make have to be substantive regulations, Joe. Do you know how many of these agencies ever make one of these substantive regulations?
Well,
None.
What do you mean?
None. That includes the IRS.
Well, what do you mean by substantive regulation? In other words, I'm coming from.
Okay, now,
is the problem that we have is we have countless agencies and authorities, right, here in Massachusetts.
Right.
We got the Mass Turnpike Authority and MWRA and all this other stuff. Yet all these authorities and agencies have the ability to make rules and regulations, which in effect have the effect of law.
No force and effect on you.
Because
no.
Well, they do, because they confine you.
And
they issue.
Well, the thing is, right, let me explain about the Administrative Procedures Act on the federal side. This is on the federal side now, okay? Whenever an agency makes a regulation, it has to show up in the Federal Register and has to show that it was done under 5 USC 5 USC 533, Joe. And it has to be done under B, C, or D. So in other words, if you look at a regulation in the Federal Register Act, right, and if you look and it doesn't say that it was done under 5 USC 533B, it's null and void. It's an interpretive regulation. So even in the state of Massachusetts, Joe, all the regulations that the state senators and stuff like that, when they make these regulations, there has to be a force and effect behind it. They don't have any force and effect even in the states, Joe. On the federal side, it has to be done. It has to show up in the Federal Register. So no matter what Biden or Trump, all these executive orders, they're all null and void. They don't pertain to you and me. Anything that they do. I mean, if they want to decide that they want to get rid of, oil drilling offshore and stuff like that, that's fine. That's all on the federal side. But it doesn't pertain to you and me. It will in the long run, though, right, Joe?
Well, okay. I'm trying to follow your thought here, logic here. Yes, all these executive orders don't exactly affect us the moment they're signed. Every executive order affects us eventually in some long way, like closing the Keystone Pipeline. First of all, when Trump opened that up, it affected us in a time because it created 800,000 plus barrels a day travel through the Keystone Pipeline. That goes a long way to making us energy independent. We saw what happened at the pump.
Right.
We saw that gas has already gone up around 25 cents at the pump per gallon, and the effect hasn't kicked in. But oil is always purchased on futures, right? So that's the thing about that is not on what they have.
That's how that runs.
It's always on the future. Yeah. So all the executive orders eventually affect us because they change how the government operates or what they can or cannot do. So eventually they do affect us, Richard, and some.
Well, they do, Joe. Let me say they do affect us, okay? But the only problem is every single one that's not done under 5 USC 533B, they're all illegal. They don't have any force and effect.
But they're followed. I mean, if they're out, let's say I accept your premise that they are illegal. Okay. Yeah. What are we going to do about it? What are you doing about it? I don't.
Exactly.
How come they're not challenged in court? How come they're allowed to do it? It's done every day. We accept it. When the president signs an executive order, we bitch about it. We talk about it. We say, oh, look at closing the Keystone Pipeline. That's just to slap you in the face to Donald Trump. It has to be because there's no logical reason in the world why you would close that. After Joe Biden stood up there in Pennsylvania and told him, I'm going to protect your jobs. I'm a union guy. And Donald Trump said, mark my words, he's coming for your job. And he's going to close this, and he's going to do it. And sure enough, it happened, which is why I have a hard time swallowing Pennsylvania went for Joe Biden. But that's another discussion.
But the thing I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to point out the law, okay? Are they going to abide by the law? No. Have they ever abided by the law? No. Have they ever abided by substantive regulations? No. And I told you that time that gentleman came over to my son's shop, and he wanted to check all his books, records. He wanted to check all the chemicals and stuff like that. He was from the government. He was from the EPA. And my wife come upstairs. I was upstairs at the time. She says, "Hey, I got a guy over here who wants to look at all the books and records, Joe." And I went down there and I asked the guy. I said, "Okay, what substantive regulation do you have that authorizes you to look at my son's books, records, and the chemicals we're using?" That guy took off, Joe. We haven't seen that guy in about 9 years. That's if you know the law, Joe. You can do this. If you don't, then
So why
they control it.
Why do we not have more people? I mean, this country, Richard, has no lack of lawyers. They're coming out of our ears.
No, we have an abundance.
We have more lawyers than we know what to do with, right? Which is why we have so many
Exactly.
lawyer jokes. How come all of these lawyers, and like I said, I mean, pretty much every fifth house is probably a lawyer living in it. Why isn't this being challenged? Why don't we hear more of this? I don't understand how this can be the case. And
they don't want to lose, Joe. They don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their bar card. All right. Either like here in New Hampshire, we either have attorneys that are the New Hampshire Bar Association, or we have attorneys here that are the American Bar Association. If they go against what's going on, they're going to lose their bar card.
Let me pause for a second. Richard, some people listening may not understand what we're talking about. Folks, attorneys, nothing really scares an attorney, right? You can threaten to sue an attorney. That's what they do for a living. That doesn't scare them. The one thing that would get an attorney's attention is if you threaten their bar card. The bar card is what allows them to operate as an attorney, practice as an attorney. When you go to the courthouse and you see, the attorneys go right by the metal detectors and they flash a little thing. What they're flashing is their bar membership card. They're showing that they're an active, participating lawyer, and that's what allows them into the courthouse without going through anything. So that's it. So
the other thing,
hold on, Richard. So if you really want to scare an attorney, you tell them, "I'm filing a complaint with the Board of Bar Overseers." That's the only thing that will get an attorney's attention. All right. So now that people understand what you're talking about, is Richard is saying, "Hey, I'm not going to make any waves because I don't want to jeopardize my bar card." Now, I'm saying
that's their living.
I get that, but I'm saying, but an attorney who this isn't going to threaten a bar card, because if it's the law, if it is what it is, then how could they be threatened? How could they lose their bar card if they say, "Hey, by the way, according to this act of 1946, well, the 1935 executive order going in, and then you're telling me about the 1946 Procedural Act under 533 and all this other stuff." If it's there, it's there. That's not going to threaten their bar card.
It's there.
Right, but that's not going to not going to take their bar card away. As a matter of fact, if they were doing this at Harvard Law School, the professor should say, "Hey, we got somebody who's actually thinking outside the box. Good for you." Well, maybe not Harvard, because Harvard's more of an indoctrination than it is an education.
Yeah, they're so liberal over there; it's unbelievable. But if you ever want to tick off a judge, okay, and you have the right to tick off a judge.
That's a good idea, folks. But if you
do, but just listen, okay? All right. Now you have the defense attorney, right? He doesn't have a license. He only has is a bar card, right? So you tell the judge, I want this case here. I want to recuse a defense attorney. Just said, "What for?" I said, "Well, he doesn't have a license to operate in front of this court here." And the judge will blow his top, because he'll come out and say, "Well, he's got a bar card, but that's not a license. I have to have a license to do nails. I have to have a license to do anything, right?" But an attorney does not have a license. So if you tell that to the judge, you'll see him blow his top. So. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things out there, Joe, that are going on that we're not taught this in school. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years. That's how come I know as much as I do. But I learned through attorneys who used to do talk shows and stuff like that. And they used to tell us on the air what the heck was going on. But they don't talk about that now.
All right. Well, it's. I got to tell you, Richard, it's never a dull moment when you call. I got to give you that. It's you give us a lot of information to chew on, a lot of information to think about. I got a lot of people texting and messaging the show saying, "Where does Richard get his information? Why? What is that from? How come we don't know this anywhere else?" And that is a good question. But I mean, what do you do? Just
Well, I'll
spend
tell you
all your
what.
time reading?
I'll tell you where I get it from, Joe. I'll tell you where I get it. I lost my eyesight, all right? I'm totally blind, 100%. But I was able to stay home. I was able to listen to different talk shows when they had shortwave radio. And on shortwave radio, they used to tell us a lot of stuff that you're never going to hear on AM or FM radio, Joe. So that's where I get my education, people. I get it from attorneys. I get them from doctors. I get it from all over the place. Oh, and one thing before I let you go, a virus, okay? Coronavirus.
Yeah.
You cannot transmit one virus to another. If I have a virus, I can't transmit my virus to you. And you can't transmit your virus to me. The only thing you can transmit from you to me is a germ or a bacteria. That's it. We cannot transmit viruses from one to another. And you can ask any doctor. How come doctors never talk about that, Joe?
Well, I have a...
You ever hear one doctor?
Look at Richard. I think what we've learned here is that there are a lot of things that doctors aren't talking about in this last year.
Exactly.
We have seen doctors who came out to try to say, look, you know, this is how viruses work. This is how, you know, what you're going to do with COVID. But because it didn't, you know, really fall in to what seemed to be the mainstream political twist of it all, they were literally wiped from the internet, right? Those 5 doctors were
right. Good, yeah.
They scrubbed them from the internet. Some of the doctors lost their positions in hospitals, which prior to appearing on that video, they were well respected and well thought of doctors in their profession. But all of a sudden, they're literally screamed, you know, back to just screamed, right? They were taken off the internet. So yeah, there were doctors out there who were saying, look, you gotta you know, think about this, right? And right now, I mean, I look at Fauci, Dr. Fauci. I really wanted to, you know, admire this guy and pay attention to him. I was like, oh, this is great. But I got to tell you, every time that man opens his mouth, it's more political than scientific. And he's lost.
He is political.
He's lost that high road and that credibility. And I think it's time for him to fade into the background and either like pushing 80 or something, isn't he? He's up there. You know,
oh yeah. Well, I think he's on the payroll of you know, a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
He's making money on this.
He is making.
All these people that are pushing all this stuff here, they're making money, Joe.
I got it.
You know, you don't think. Yeah.
All right. Hey,
all right, I'll let you go because, like I said, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call.
Yeah, you take care. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Appreciate it. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, folks. 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. So as again, we had 48 hours. We had 27 executive orders done and no explanation to any of these. And the one that really bothers me, I mean, there's a couple that really hit it, and I got to tell you that the one with the Keystone Pipeline is really bad. He also is stopping to build the border wall. Now, this gets very tricky, folks. First of all, again, that is all political because Donald Trump ran on building a wall. He ran on the immigration issue. And this is the thing that I don't understand, because this is a man, Joe Biden, who stands up there and attacks Trump and says, you got to listen to the experts and the scientists. I will listen to the experts when it comes to the coronavirus. I'll do what they say. I'll listen to them. Well, my question to you, Mr. President, is what about the experts on the wall? What about the people who wear badges? What about the people who have committed their lives, their profession, in their professional career to our government and our security and safety by becoming immigration or border patrol officers? Because they're the ones who said, this is what we need. Donald Trump didn't think of this magically one night in a dream. He was told by the people who are handling the border, what we need is a wall. What we need is more equipment. What we need is to secure this, because look, and this is the part that we got to take it the next step, folks, and you got to understand something. And for the Democratic Party as a party to be against the wall and tight border security is in essence hurting people. When you think about this, look what happened right now. We have thousands and thousands of people in a caravan because they get it in their head that Joe Biden's going to take care of us. We've got 100 days to get to the United States. That's what they're saying in the interviews in the caravan headed north. We have 100 days to get there. We're coming up against the break, but I want to continue this on the other side. We'll talk about this. You can talk about it as well. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. You reach right into the studio for two-way talk and conversation on the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN with 50,000 watts of power. I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This is Sean Burke, president of the Licensed...
Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 487-798.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
It's time to go out with Joe.
Locations. Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe. 2021 should be an interesting year. We're brought to you by Nothing But Cakes in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This week, we're going to take a look at what restaurants you need to pay attention to in 2021. See, traditionally at the end of the year, Restaurant Business publishes a sampling of emerging restaurants to watch in the new year. But 2020, of course, has not been like any other year. That's not saying there aren't concepts worth watching. As the pandemic does some Darwinian weeding out of restaurant business models, investors are still finding growth concepts to put their money behind. Fast casual chicken chain Starboard received a $4 million cash infusion in December to fuel its growth across California. And in November, 83-unit Torchy's Tacos completed a new funding round, and health-focused, value-minded Every Table closed on a $16 million investment deal. But here are some other topics, hot topics, restaurant operators should be paying attention to in 2021. The vaccine distribution. The reasons to pay attention to this are really a no-brainer. The sooner vaccines become widely administered, the sooner life will return to some version of normal. Dine-in suspensions and capacity caps will ease, consumers will regain confidence in on-premise dining, and most likely pent-up demand for restaurant hospitality and social gatherings will spark a major boom with the industries. We might even see another roaring 20s. Widespread vaccinations will likely have another ripple effect. Restaurants will likely return to having a deep well of teenage employees whose parents had kept them out of the workforce because of coronavirus fears. Also, airport concepts. Licensing a restaurant concept for airport expansion was traditionally a reliable way to bring in some revenue and build brand awareness. Not so much in a COVID world. Now, those airport restaurants are largely shut down or seeing greatly depressed traffic. It's unknown when most Americans will feel comfortable to travel widely again, but we will see brands create a more grab-and-go alternative or duck out of the airport space entirely in the new year. And then there's the suburban swing. Restaurant real estate will no doubt remain a hot topic in 2021. How long downtown cores will remain ghost towns attendance is uncertain, but it's clear that many office workers who once frequented nearby fast casuals will work from home for a good chunk of the coming year. Some might never return to their cubicles. That has many operators eyeing suburban locations or even ways to do regular suburban deliveries of their food. Intergrocerants still a threat? Pre-pandemic operators nervously eye grocery store chains adding wine bars, quick service options, or even full-service sit-down concepts amid their shelves of cereal and walls of kale. Now, with consumers getting hooked on the convenience of grocery delivery, the relevance of those concepts, well, they're a little less certain. Mega retailer Kroger, however, did announce its entrance into the ghost kitchen space this fall, so perhaps the grocerant still looms as a threat. For more on this article, check out this post on OutWithJoe.com from Restaurant Business. We're still suspending the Music Minute for the time being for obvious reasons, but don't forget to support your local musicians. We do. For more on dining and entertainment, click OutWithJoe.com and follow us on social media at OutWithJoe. OutWithJoe has been brought to you by Nothing Bun Cakes in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury, on Facebook at Nothing Bun Cakes Shrewsbury.
The preceding program has been a production of Cameo Productions.
Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. For any occasion, function, or just to have around the house or office, stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury, and on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
Welcome back to the second half of the first hour. Just turn that music down a little bit. And it is 508-717-7000. Drop that music down a little bit. All right, folks, here we are. Second half of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. That's how you reach into the studio for two-way talk and conversation. Don't forget our text line at 617-297-8388. All right, folks. Still a lot to talk about. We don't really have scheduled guests today because we have open lines. We have a lot to talk about. It's been a crazy week or two. Well, it's been a crazy 4 years, to tell you the truth. But one of the problems I'm having that we're talking about is these executive orders and the fact that so many have taken place without any explanation as to the reasoning and the thought process behind doing this. But let me go to the phones at 508-871-7000, Ken in Bolton. Hey, Ken, good to hear from you. Always a little time between.
Hi, Joe.
How are you, sir?
Fine. We're now crossed into a new era.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the most part, into a post-Trump era. And I think it gives us some opportunity to kind of pull back and get a sense of the big picture of the dynamics of, kind of how we got here and where we're headed. And I've come up with this theory that what we're having difficulty with that's changing our lives so much are two different things. They're both three parties that are playing a part. So I call it the triad of corruption and the triad of destruction. And let me just lay out the triad starting with the corruption. So the three triad of corruption are political, Democratic Party, and Republicans who have been elected for decades, the media, and academia. The three are what we're debating.
Now,
The
Ken, realize
triad.
that, Ken, these areas that you just listed are really, they coincide with the areas where the right or the conservative movement have lost it, right? We've lost to the left when it comes to media. We've lost when it comes to social, Hollywood, TV shows, right? And then academic.
And now big tech.
And we've lost to the universities, because for years they've been changing. I mean, not just the universities, right? Now it's spread down. It's into our elementary schools and our middle schools, where the hive mentality exists there too. And the stuff that we were taught, American history and American greatness, when we were kids, isn't being taught, right? And now they're trying to tell us that they want to put the 1619 as a curriculum, a series of essays that was never meant to be a curriculum, much less integrated into the school system. And the author of the 1619 Project will tell you that, right? There was a series of essays that appeared in the New York Times, which now the answer to this is what? The 1776 essays, or not essays, but doctrine. So we've lost, and we, the conservative movement, have lost in all those areas that you just mentioned. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get where that comes from. But go ahead with your process here.
And ultimately, there's the triad of destruction, which is Antifa, BLM, and the funders of each.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to BLM,
So the interesting part.
On BLM, there's the BLM movement and there's the BLM organization. Now, I've said this before. The BLM movement, I don't know how anybody can have a problem with the movement, and the movement is equality. It's just equality and equity. That should have. I get that, but the organization is Marxist. The person fundraising and in charge of their finances was let out of prison after blowing up police officers. I mean, the whole thing is the organization I have a huge problem with. The movement I don't. I'm not against any organization that looks for equality for all, right? I don't have a problem with that. But the BLM organization, where they're being funded, how they're being funded, in the secular sense of the money, what comes in and where it goes back out to, that needs to be examined right down to the micro level.
Well, who's going to tell the story? We're losing platforms from which to even tell the story.
Absolutely, and that's a big discussion I'm planning on having today about platforms and being wiped off of the face of the earth here systematically. And whether you're talking about the Parler situation, which I'm going to get into, there's also Telegram, which is another platform, but I'll get into that in a little while. But yeah, you're right, because the left and now big tech, who had a tremendous amount of power, Ken, before this election cycle, you gotta think, Ken, that they feel so empowered and emboldened right now because they've been able to do whatever they want to do without any backlash, including censoring and wiping the President of the United States off the platform, and nobody has a problem with it. Although I got to tell you, foreign leaders do. Foreign leaders have a huge problem with it, including the President of Mexico and the Chancellor of Germany. Have all had problems with it because they don't like what can happen. They don't like what it represents, and we have a real problem. Because,
Did you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you follow the legal story on Parler this week?
Well, I've been watching the story. I know that they went out to. They've gone to Italy and they've even gone to Russia about those platforms. But there's also a story on there about the attacks on the CEO's family and the wife that I was going to get into. So I don't know if you're talking about that story.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. No, what I'm talking about is they actually went to court.
Yeah.
So they had a court ruling.
Yes.
Did you hear about the court ruling?
What was the ruling that they had?
It was ruling against Parler. and in favor of Amazon, or the AWS,
Yeah, Amazon,
which is the web service.
And what was? Do you know what the legal argument or the premise was on that?
Well, the judge basically latched on to the riot story and effectively accepted the narrative that Parler was complicit with the riot. The actual facts are that not a single person who was arrested for rioting had even a Parler account, but she ignored that.
Meanwhile, we can point to tweets and posts, and some of them still up there, among the Antifa crowd, talking about meeting up and where to pick up weapons and what to wear and what to bring and where to gather. I mean, that's fact. That's out there. And yet they're not out there. I mean, we've got the Ayatollah Khomeini with a Twitter account. We've got these left, and I'm talking the ultimate, the left bad actors that have social media accounts, but they're not touched. They're not censored at all. And again, so you're going to ask, Ken, who's the judge? Who's the judge? What's their political leaning? Who appointed them? Who do they have dinner with? What parties are they afraid they're not going to get invited to? I mean, I'm sorry, I got to be petty like that, but it basically, what else? You got to ask those questions.
Well, and who are we asking to police these issues? So let me just jump to because I think conservatives make a mistake in suggesting that what about this, what about that, and why isn't whatever platform policing such and such? Because it shouldn't be their responsibility to police. In other words, if we really believe in free speech, the line is only crossed when there are threats of violence and destruction. And so who's supposed to get involved into that? Actually, our national intelligence, whether it be FBI or NSA or other bodies. So why aren't we focused on them acting in the appropriate way to protect us against, for instance, the events of January 6th? And do you think they knew some of the planning that was going on before January 6th?
Yes, I do, because that has already come out, that there was chatter picked up long before Donald Trump spoke, by the way. And days before January 6th, there was chatter that they have about about what to do on that day, about what to wear, what to bring, and what to get done. And then there's video of people in there, and I'm not talking the middle-aged, plump couple from Indiana who took the RV up with Trump paraphernalia. These are young people, dressed in the black with the helmets and the knapsacks, and they seem to have had maps and instructions. It's on video. You know what I mean? It's not even secondhand. I saw this. I mean, it was backed up with eyewitness, but you can, if you pour through the video, there's video of people dressed like that and acting like that. And I just submit that I don't think that fits the profile of a typical Trump rally goer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, Joe, do you know the timeline on January 6th?
Well, they started doing it before Trump was even finished speaking, and even before he took the stage, by the way.
The incursion actually started before he started to speak, never mind ended to speak, which is hardly a narrative that's being described in
But the problem is, Ken, we've
media
seen these narratives that they just get repeated in the mainstream media over and over again. What's the, you tell a lie loud enough and often enough, it'll be believed. We've seen the whole Russian hoax, right? They just continue to tell it. A matter of fact, what about Charlottesville in Trump, right? That is a widely believed lie that he said about the white supremacists and racists. There are good people on both sides, when he was clearly, if you watched it, he was talking about the argument of removing statues and monuments. He said there are good points and good people on both sides of that argument, not white supremacists. And Joe Biden even on the national stage in a presidential debate said the reason I decided to run after not running before, right, and not to mention the fact he probably figured he couldn't get elected twice before. He got called out on lying and plagiarism. But that aside, he said he ran because Donald Trump said that about white supremacists in the national stage. And that's just a lie. He did not say that. That's not what he was saying. And that's a very frustrating thing because people believe that because that's what CNN, MSNBC, and all of the alphabets are telling us. Donald Trump said this about white supremacists. And they just take it as face value. And so there's the narrative. Now, whatever MSM, the mainstream media, keeps repeating and keeps telling people is what they're going to believe is the reality of it, unfortunately. And it's Newsmax, and it used to be Fox, and it's this show and other shows like this where we're trying to set the record straight and say, slow down, no, let's look at what really was said, what really was done, and hopefully leave some kind of mark on history, because history is written by the victor, isn't it?
Well, I guess what you're saying is who dominates what is said.
Yeah.
Or are we really speaking actual history?
Well, both, because what is said right now and what becomes printed in newspapers makes it into the history books eventually, right? The paper of record. Right?
Well,
where does that come from?
Yeah, it makes it into the, let's say 90% of history books are telling one narrative and 10% are telling a different narrative. If the truth is the 10%, what's history?
Well, that's a good question.
History is the 10%.
Because history is what actually happened.
And it may be in the minority, but it is what happened.
Right. History is what actually happened. But what is perceived to be history is what is being told in our schools. It's what's being told in textbooks, Ken, right? When you get down to it. Because in a generation from now, our children, our grandchildren, our children's children's children are going to be in school. They're going to be taught from textbooks and who wrote the textbooks. Because to them, that will be the reality, what they're taught. That's unfortunately what happens, which is why we've got to try to take back the truth, and we've got to look to that front. We have to look to the publishers, and that's another issue, right? We've got Hawley out there. Simon and Schuster canceled his book because he's just on the wrong side as far as they're concerned. And that's look. One final thought, because I've got phone calls and we're running out of time. And one last thought you want to go out on?
That effectively the triad that I described they may be in cahoots now, but that triad of destruction is going to destruct the first triad also, and that's going to create mayhem. And those of us of a different persuasion, let's say, will need to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. All right, Ken, thank you very much for the call. I've got to run. I've got full lines. Thank you so much. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, folks. Joanne, thank you for being patient and holding on to the line. Good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yes, I just want to say that I disagree with you a little bit on the Black Lives Matter. Of course, the organization is just a corrupt Marxist organization, and as you know and you've said, and it's all over the internet. You can the people, the woman that heads it. But even just saying, I don't agree with you that they should run around and say just to say Black Lives Matter is inferring that there's a racial inequality. And in this country, Joe, we were at almost a perfect racial equality. This is the 1950s. We were at almost a perfect racial equality.
Joanne, I agree that we seem to be doing pretty good on the whole racial divide and racial path before Barack Obama. I really do believe
Yes.
that Barack Obama actually ended up causing more racial strife than not, and he was supposed to bring that in together. What I'm saying is I don't believe he should be running around saying Black Lives Matter. I'm saying I understand the concept of the movement, which is equality, just equality. But equality is, we should be colorblind. Now, I know that the response to that is, no, we should recognize color, should be aware of it. Well, yeah, I think everybody's aware of the history. But I don't believe that in order that you and I or whatever, in order to somehow make up for slavery in this country, we need to kneel or pay reparations or I don't get that. I don't get that.
No.
We didn't have anything
of
to
course
do with
not.
that.
No, of course not. And yeah, Barack Obama started it. BLM, kill the cops, fry them like bacon, started under him. He is the biggest racist. People don't understand that black people can be racist too. I said that once, and a caller called up and said, "Oh no, there's no such thing." What? They're human beings. They're full of race. They can be racist too. They can hate white people. And case in point is, what's her name? Kristen Clark, Biden, the false president of Biden, picked for civil rights in the Justice Department, this Kristen Clark. She has come out and she is such a racist. It isn't even funny. She has come out. She's a black woman who has come out saying that black people are superior. Kristen Clark. She has come out and said black people are superior to white people. Just look her up. Tucker Carlson has been exposing her. She's Biden's pick for civil rights. I think that's her name. Am I right?
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, because he happened to have her on his show. Like long before she got appointed for this. Kristen Clark, Clarke, with the DOJ. Right. The DOJ, she got a position, right? Biden nominated her for the civil rights lawyer. And I remember seeing him and her go at it a few times on his show. But I think what you're also making reference to, and people forget this, that there were 5 police officers killed by snipers in Dallas by BLM protesters, right? That's when they pinned him down, and that's back in 2016, I think. That was under Obama's administration, and that's 5 police officers shot like fish in a barrel and wounded 7 others. Okay, back when that happened, and that. I mean, there was some news about it and talk about it back when it happened, but what snowballed out of that doesn't really happen. Now, these were people, right, who were saying that the recent shootings were to kill whites, especially white officers. So that is the BLM organization, guys. That's the BLM organization. That's what we're dealing with. The any movement that just calls for in the originally BLM was calling for racial harmony. It has gotten warped and just twisted as time gone on to something else. And then the BLM organization has received millions of dollars, and a lot of it, Joanne, are from where? Corporate America, who are afraid that they will turn their attention onto them, right, and boycott them or picket them or accuse them of being, being racist. That's the worst thing a company wants to be accused of.
Exactly, and it all feeds in to what I fear is coming, a real persecution of Trump supporters, both white and black. There are plenty of black Trump supporters too, as you know. And I just wanted to reiterate again the quote that that phony, fake President Biden said in his speech, because people are saying, oh, where's the unity? Where's the unity? Can I read this quote? There is no unity. Unity is just do what I say or we're going to hurt you, right? So here's the quote from him. Now the rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat. So he demonizes us, calling us political extremism, white supremacists, domestic terrorists that we are not, and they're going to defeat us. I don't know about you, Joe, but I take that as a threat. I mean a physical threat, because they've already done all they can do on the political front.
Let me say this to you. You are welcome to stay on if you'd like to, but I need to break because it's a hard 7 o'clock. I can't control the time. 508-871-7000 if you'd like to join the conversation. We'll be back on the other side. Stick with us here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
7 o'clock. Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, talk radio is the immune system to the partisan, bias, political rhetoric attacking us on a daily basis. Get inoculated. The Joe Mangiacotti Show is your vaccine. Join me weekend mornings, 6 to 8. I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 508-791-2088.
Golden Group Roofing is a community brand. From our master lead roofers and industry partners to our clients, every single person represents the Golden Group standard. We strive every day to make your home's needs a priority because Golden Group invests in you and your communities. With unbeatable craftsmanship, customer satisfaction, reasonable pricing, Golden Group Roofing stands above the rest. Having been awarded GAF Master Lead Contractor, Certainty Select Shingle Master, and GAF Energy Certified Solar, Golden Group Roofing is 100% worthy of your investment. Experience the Golden Group difference, where hands protect what matters most. Visit us at goldengrouproofing.com or call us at 508-873-1884. 508-873-1884.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
as well as live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN. You can take us anywhere. Tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that. And we're also live streaming on my Facebook page, which is Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. The audio's there. There's a camera up in the studio as I broadcast from our remote location here. Secure, non-disclosed location. So, but the audio, that's the main thing. 508-871-7000. And don't forget that you can also text us in real time at 617-297-8388. 617-297-8388. All right. So I have a few things I want to go over. Joanne, did you stay on the line, right?
Yes, I stayed on the line, Joe.
Sure.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind. Got a couple of more things.
Yeah,
So-
finish your thought there.
Okay, well, I just want to say that, we've been calling 6 days to Sunday, Joe. How do they get away with every single giant con job? First, the election is stolen, right? Now, I don't know if you heard Gary's show yesterday, but someone called at the end. His name was John, and I recognized his voice as one of my compatriots that used to be in the standouts with us, and he was there, and he described as they approached the Capitol, there were all these young guys in black and helmets and ropes. They had ropes and equipment and stuff, urging them on to break in to the Capitol. Come on, let's show them. Come on, and then being the first ones that actually did the breaking in. So we know that. We know Antifa, and you have been saying that. Antifa and BLM broke in, and then the schmoes, I call them, the dumb Trump supporters followed them. And I'm not saying that was right, but you know what? It was another setup, another big con job. And you know what? How come none of they must have gathered up some Antifa guys too, but they let them go out the back door. The only ones that are going to be sent to federal prison is, the silly guy in the buffalo hat, and you know what I mean?
All right, Joey, first of all, I think that anybody who actually did any damage, broke a window, broke doors, didn't follow lawful orders from Capitol Police should be charged accordingly. But I also think, because while this was all going on, folks, on Inauguration Day, remember that in Portland and in other places, right, where Antifa was attacking courthouses and throwing Molotov cocktails, smashing businesses. And I don't see the same concern and the same efforts made to bring that and squash that and bring those people to justice. But that being said, let's put a pin in it. Going back to the Capitol building, I said this. First of all the jamokes that did what they did, absolutely. Look, it's got to be known, and just because this group hasn't been prosecuted doesn't mean these people should get a pass. Everybody who did that should get a pass. The Constitution says that we're guaranteed the right for peaceful protest. Now, unlike the Jamal Cuomo who said, show me where protests are supposed to be peaceful. Well, it's in the Constitution, you moron. But that aside, when you look at the Capitol, I have questions about that day and why was bicycle racks considered to be enough when now we learn that the powers to be actually had chatter and absolute legit reasons to believe there was going to be more more bad actors there than just those peaceful people who were showing their their message, I guess, their togetherness with the rally and the signs and all that. That's what they were there for. The majority of those people weren't there with any intention of doing any damage. They just wanted to show up in numbers with their message. Now, as I said earlier, we had a problem because there were people, and you can see that in the videos. Go watch the videos if you go.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking, folks. Go to the to the networks. Yeah, I'm telling you, you need to go troll the Twitter feeds of some of these independent reporters and stuff who were there,
Right.
who posted it. That's where you're going to see uncut raw footage of what's going on, and then
Right.
you're going to see
Exactly.
who are these people that are dressed in the black with their knapsacks and helmets. Who wears a helmet to a peaceful rally? They have helmets and they have knapsacks,
Nobody.
and they brought ropes. Why are you bringing ropes? Who
Right,
brings a
right.
rope,
So
right?
they scaled.
If you do a
Right.
stand, Joanne, you've done God knows how many standouts and sign holders
Yeah.
and stuff. Do you bring a knapsack with weapons and rope, and do you wear a helmet? No, it's not. It's not what it's
No.
called for. So that's my question: is who are those people? Have they been identified and questioned, and find out? Now, the other part of this is, and I call it Pelosi's Palace Guards, the Capitol Police. Right, it's the Speaker of the House, who happens to be Nancy Pelosi right now, is who is in charge of the security of the House, i.e., the Capitol Police. So they were offered additional help, and they rejected it. They rejected it. They said no. Why? Why would you reject that help?
Because it was a setup, Joe. It was a complete setup, and it worked perfectly for the Democrats. Do you agree?
Well, that is absolutely one explanation, and that's absolutely a school of thought that's out there, and I think it has merit because it doesn't add up. See, this is when I say things, Joanne, I go, you have to step back and look at things, and the whole tagline of this show is, right, common sense talk for the common sense citizen. So the question is, does it make sense? Does the common sense person look at this and say, oh, that all fits? Well, when it doesn't fit, when there are more questions than answers, when it doesn't make sense, you have to say, what is going on there? Now, sometimes it's a matter of incompetency, right? They're just incompetent and they didn't do a good job. Sometimes it's just a perfect storm of events. But sometimes, Joanne, there's something more nefarious
It's a setup.
going on. And
Exactly.
Okay, because now, and I wonder this more now, because now they're talking about leaving upwards of 7,000 of these troops in the Capitol until March. And I don't understand. There's supposed to be, I can look at my notes. It's like March 4th or something, right? This is the date that's being thrown around, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this? This is supposed to be a significant date to the to the alt-right or to some kind of movement, and I don't know. And I was going to ask you, the audience, does anybody know what the heck the date in March means? Why? Why do they want to leave troops in our capital? And we're not talking a couple hundred people. We're talking upwards of 7,000 troops occupying the capital of the United States of America. Now, if that isn't something, could you imagine, 10 years ago, never mind 50 years ago, telling people this is what the capital of the United States will look like one day? Never mind,
well, I can give you
25,000 people with barbed wire fences.
Yeah, and Pelosi wanted to put 50 caliber machine guns on some of the things I heard, but you know what, Joe? And not one Trump supporter, that big nasty Trump supporter, was within 100 miles of Washington D.C. That's the big joke on us. And not only that, but I can give you the explanation why they want to keep them there as long as possible.
Joanne, there were a lot of Trump supporters at that rally. Right.
No. I'm saying now you were talking about the 25,000 troops that they had for the fake inauguration. There wasn't one Trump supporter within 100 miles. The place was deserted.
Not the 6. Yeah, you're talking. No, that's true. There was because actually, all of the the internet, YouTube guys and all that out there, they were actually saying, don't go to the Capitol. Don't go.
Yeah,
because
I know.
They were
tweeted that out. That's for sure.
They were giving us a line that this is all part of a bigger plan, right? That there's going to be kind of some kind of arrest going on and all that. So yeah, no Trump supporter wanted to go there that day. Nobody did. I get that.
No,
Yeah.
no.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. The
And
sixth
thank
were all
God.
about it. And so I'm getting a message here that it's March 8th. So that's supposed to be the date. We'll find out what that is. Richard says he knows what that's about.
Yeah.
All right, Joanne.
Well,
go ahead.
okay. All right, Joe.
You got anything
I
else?
just wanted to say that.
Okay.
No, just that to have the troops there was just another propaganda thing that they are in that we're violent, that just another way to demonize us. That's all it is.
Oh, I know.
And now they keep saying that. Oh, thank you for protecting me, Dr. Fake Jill said after they sent them to a freezing cold garage to sleep on the floor. But anyway, I will let you go, Joe. I've been operating your time on.
Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, I mean, now the talk. Thank you, Joanne. Now the talk, right, is that Trump supporters need to be re-educated. This is real talk going around about deprogramming. That's the key, right? We got to deprogram Trump supporters. That is very scary talk, right? When you start combining this with lists being made and anybody who worked for the Trump organization, or excuse me, the Trump administration, can't have a job, can't talk. I mean, there's some scary stuff going out there. But Richard in New Hampshire, we'll let you call a second time today because you said you have the answer to the question of what is the date. March 8th is the date, and why is this supposed to be significant?
March 4th.
That's what I thought it was. Okay.
March 4th. And what it does, it goes all the way back to 1776 when the first inaugural, was done by Washington, and all the way up to the 18th. Well, actually, Roosevelt did it on the 4th too. He was the last president to be inaugurated on the 4th. So that's why they say they got to stay there. But the thing that people don't understand, I don't want to shock anybody out there, but on the 4th of March, Trump will be he will retain his presidency.
Well, he can't.
That's why he kept 7,000. No. Because what happened is, like I told you yesterday, everybody that is either in the military or law enforcement or in these other agencies like NSA and all that, they all know that the election was stolen, and he was supposed to get it back on the 20th, but there was a snafu, Joe. Okay. And because he was supposed to have gone down to Florida already, but he wasn't. He was in Washington, D.C. He was going to take the office back. And what happened is, with the snafu, well, he left and he's down in Florida right now.
Richard,
but he is going to come back up on March 4th.
But I got to tell you something. I've been seeing all these videos and all these talks and these theories out there, and I get sent them all the time. And every time it doesn't come through, they move the goalpost. And all these people, right, they were supposed to be arrested before the inauguration. The military was supposed to come in. He was supposed to sign a limited insurrection act. I got all those stories. I got all those.
He already did that. He already did that, Joe. He already signed the insurrection act. He already did that.
So So in your version of this,
my opinion. I'll say my opinion.
In your opinion of this, who the military personnel occupying the Capitol right now, are they there for Trump or against Trump?
For Trump.
For Trump. So Trump,
like I said,
Trump is really behind wanting all of those military people on hand in there because he is going to use the military to right what he feels is wrong. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And what he's going to do, the first thing he's got lined up, he's going after all the child molesters. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. And when I don't know if I told you, but right now the Pope and all the cardinals, they're under house arrest in the Vatican. All the streets are blocked off. Nobody can come out, and the only people who go in, they have to be inspected. I'm not making this stuff up. This it's coming down, Joe. You gotta, I don't care if you believe me or you don't believe me, but we'll see we'll see March 4th.
Richard, you're on record, right? You're on a 50,000 watt station. You're on a couple stations. You're recorded on our archives for perpetuity, so you're on record as saying this. And,
yeah, okay.
And it'd be interesting, because that would be a very interesting. I mean, I can't imagine what that would look like, because how is he going to, I mean, literally take the White House back? I mean, he's out of office. We've sworn in a new president. But I get what you're saying. I know that stuff is out there, but I've also been watching it, and every time a date comes that they promised something was going to happen, they move the goalposts back because there was a snafu or somebody didn't do something they were supposed to do. But, March 4th is going to come and go fairly quickly. But let's see what happens.
Right.
I mean, if the Pope was under arrest, I mean, who put the Pope under arrest? The Pope is his own country, right? Nobody has.
Well, what it is well, the thing is, it's all about child molestation. There is so much child molestation going on in the world, Joe. If you even knew a quarter of what was going on,
well, actually,
you'd cry.
No, I know about it.
Cry.
I mean, in my profession, I get a lot of, in my other profession, owning and running an agency, I get that. I know there's more than the average person probably knows. And I also know that President Trump has done a tremendous amount in human trafficking and child abuse that has not been reported and has not been talked about.
Oh yeah, they don't want to.
And he's done a great deal there, and so is the First Lady. But that you don't see that in the mainstream media, though.
No, you don't. He's already arrested over 2,000 child molesters. Nobody talks about it, Joe. They don't want us to know what's going on out there, because it goes to the top. It's our senators, our congressmen. I mean, it's billionaires, millionaires. They're all child molesters. And I don't know if you knew, but a long time ago, you remember Boys Town?
Yeah.
Well, Boys Town, what they were doing, some of the senators and congressmen, they were taking the boys out of there, and they were using them as mules to bring drugs into Washington, D.C., and they were having sex with these boys. And they had boys and girls at the time, because they were using girls, and they came out when they were like 18, 19, and they were saying that their lives are totally screwed up from what the senators and congressmen did to them when they were younger. Okay. I mean, this is out there. There's Franklin Cover-Up. There's a book that I read, Franklin Cover-Up. My wife read it to me. And then there's Franklin Cover-Up 2. Franklin Cover-Up 2, I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, our ex-governor here, John Sununu Sr., he's in the book. He's a child molester. That's why the Sununus hate me over here in New Hampshire.
All right. Okay. All right, that's a lot of information to unpack, Richard. Thank you, though, for the call. And
okay.
I'm going to go
listen
to
this
care. Franklin. Thank you very much. All right. Well, that was a turn in the conversation I didn't know we were going to have today. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. 508-871-7000. That's how you reach the studio. And you can also text at 617-297-8388. Okay, so another thing, by the way, we're up to 30. The number has gone to 30 executive orders, by the way, but 27 in 48 hours. And that tells me a couple things. And this is getting to be a silly game, right? That the executive order being used the way it's being used. And, Obama, famously said, I have a telephone and a pen when it came to the Obamacare Act, and he was just going to go through, and that's that. And Trump had to use them to get things done as well. And it's just, we've got to get a slow on it, because it's just this whole unity thing, right? So you want unity. And I can't believe Joe Biden is sincere in that, because in the same breath, in the same speech that he talks about unity and the time to come together, he also calls half the country racist, and that there's a problem with everybody. It's just wrong. I mean, how do you break the cycle of this? But one of the other orders of concern, because Joe Biden has talked about this $15 minimum wage. And we've talked about this before, folks. First of all, it's very hard to have a federal minimum wage, because the difference in each area, each community will find its wage. Now, first of all, the fact that wages were increasing under the Trump administration organically is something to look at. And, the best solution to wages is growth, right? Jobs and demand. And when unemployment is at the record lows that it was at in the Trump administration, you're going to have a wage increase because you have to pay more to get more. And it just helps. The capitalist way will work in that way. But this $15 minimum wage he signed for federal employees, and it overrides Trump orders. So he signed the order, and it requires federal contractors to pay at least $15 per hour, and provides employees with emergency paid leave. So this is what happens. So assuming that you have a standard 40-hour work week, and there's 52 weeks out of the year that you do work at the $15, that's a $31,200 income before taxes. Now, part of this argument that Joe Biden has is that if you work 40 hours a week and you are still at the poverty level, that's not right. And I agree. That doesn't make a lot of sense. But to have every job at that in every community it will result in the net loss of jobs. And it's been established and proven to be the fact time after time after time. So it's not going to work. Now, when he talks about this, what else is going to take effect? Because if he's saying, look, we've got to make sure that nobody is under that poverty level. So that $15 an hour based on a traditional 40-hour work week, 52 weeks, give us a $31,200. Now, $31,200 is higher than the highest Social Security income, but way higher, to the tune of probably more than twice the typical income for Social Security. So is the next step saying that all Social Security checks have got to be raised to $31,200 as well, or above the poverty level at least? And that opens another door, because Social Security has always been, the third rail in politics. But let's not forget that Social Security has been robbed and stolen from for years. And it wasn't supposed to be. And then Congress continues to tap it for revenue, or tap it to give revenue, to give money to people that it wasn't meant to be. When Social Security was established as a trust, as this account that everybody, you paid into with your taxes, your withholding, right, your FICA, it was taken out, put in there, it was put towards your benefit. And as the baby boomers came up and the work pool got so huge, it was a very healthy account. And that's the problem, folks, right? You can't have this extremely healthy financial account sitting in D.C. without politicians going, oh my God, we got to get some of that. Why should billions and trillions of dollars be sitting there when we need to fund stuff? Two things. It's not your money to touch. It belongs to the people who put the money in for their retirement. That's what it's supposed to be there. They borrowed from it and borrowed from it. Then when you start saying people who never paid into it can pull out of it, I'm not going to debate whether they should be getting money, and I'm talking about, yes, the benefits that's been paid to illegals and paid to people who never paid into it. Okay, that should have come out of tax money. You want that program, that comes out of tax money. You don't take it out of somebody's retirement. So that Social Security fund was funded by the percentage of wages of people working their life. Now, there are going to be some cases where people, for whatever the reason is, medical reason, go out on what's called SSDI, And we got to make this distinction between SSI and SSDI. SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. These are people who were working, paying into it. Something happens. I don't care, whatever it is. It causes them not to be able to work. They collect their Social Security income maybe at 30 years old, maybe at 44 years old. It doesn't matter, whenever the illness or the accident happened. But to me, that's okay, because they were paying into it. That's what it's there for. The insurance part of it kicks in. We're going to pay you what your benefit would have been at 62, or whatever the formula is. That's okay. That's what it's there for. But SSI is giving income to people who never paid into it. That shouldn't be coming out of that money. That should be coming out of tax money. That's another program. And it certainly shouldn't be taken to be borrowed from either. But we're at the time for a break at 29 and a half minutes after the hour, so we're going to take a quick break here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We're going to check in with the Licensed Private Detective Association of Massachusetts for case files. And and something else. I think we're going to have maybe a find for everyone. I don't know what Ted had set up for us, but we'll be back on the other side. Stick with us. I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
Good morning and welcome to Case Files from the LPDAM. We take a look at actual cases, the law, and lessons from the findings, and where we share the experiences of the experts of the Private Detectives Association of Massachusetts. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and joining us this week is Sean Burke, President of LPDAM and Resident Manager of Courtside Legal Investigation. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Joe.
Well, here we are in a new year. A new administration has been sworn in. And do you think with the political landscape changing so much in Washington, D.C., almost by the minute here, that it is a benefit to the PI industry here in the Commonwealth?
Yes, I do, Joe. We all need to evolve with change. It is in these opportunities that make America great. Because our licensing standards are so consistent, private investigators are in a durable business that offers the consumer quality services no matter the political climate. Many of our members are former law enforcement, and it gives us a unique advantage in how the federal, state, and local municipalities adapt to such changes. At lpdm.org, we have an investigator for you. Our members understand the goal of their client and how outside variables can often affect an outcome. It is our proactive measures that often get the best results for our customers. Joe, the Biden administration appears to be focused on community efforts, and we believe at LPDM that our licensing can benefit from it. We expect this community approach to continue to open many business opportunities within the private investigative industry. For example, as many small businesses grow and hire employees, LPDM members provide background and employment verification. It is a small cost when you get the right employees for your business the first time.
Sean, would you agree small businesses did well under the Trump administration?
I would agree with you, Joe. Small businesses overall did well, especially up until the pandemic. LPDM members have reported doing very well under the former administration's policies, and more importantly, under the current Massachusetts political landscape. Now that there is change in leadership at the federal level, LPDM members will adapt, like many other industries, to maximize their business opportunities here in Massachusetts. Joe, at lpdm.org, we love what we do. We investigate when someone has been wronged. We take pride in helping our clients to get to the truth. No matter the political climate, our results stand up in court. Remember, you're in good hands with LPDM.
Well, you certainly are, and that's a lot to think about, Sean. Thanks for stopping by, Case Files.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you for joining us for Case Files from the LPDAM. Join us here each week on WCRN 8:30 a.m. and online anytime at lpdamcasefiles.com, and visit us at lpdam.org, and you can find LPDAM on Facebook and Twitter at PI in Mass, and anytime at 800-955-6274. For Sean Burke, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. This is Find a Forever Home for Teddy's Friends, brought to you by Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at CantianiAgency.com. This week's candidate comes from the Bay Path Humane Society. Marcy. Marcy's a 7-year-old, 2-month female mix. She certainly is a special girl and is looking for an experienced home. Marcy is a high-strung pup, and she needs a family that can help her work through her anxieties. Marcy is looking for an owner with terrier experience and an adult-only home, too. See, she needs to be the only dog, and she is looking to live in a quiet area. She would not do well in an apartment setting or a busy neighborhood. She is very dog selective and reactive, so needs a quiet space. A fenced yard would be a bonus. Once Marcy settles in, she is a sweet girl and loves her people. If you think you could be the family for Marcy, she's been waiting for you. Check out baypathhumane.org or complete details and link out to Teddy's Facebook page at Teddy Good Pup. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by the Cantiani Insurance Group with locations at 318 Plantation Street and East Douglas Insurance at 306 Main Street, Douglas, and anytime at 508-791-2088.
To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Joe Mangiacotti.
All right. WCRN. Don't forget we're live streaming on the TuneIn app. Just punch it in, WCRN, and you can take us anywhere. 508-871-7000. Our text line 617-297-8388. We're also live streaming on our Facebook page at Joe Mangiacotti Show, M-A-N-G-I. You got the audio streaming there as well, so several ways to listen. And don't forget we do post past shows up on our podcast, so you can go to TJMShow.com or JoeMangiacotti.com and find them there as well. All right, so a couple more things I wanted to get in before the show was up, but before I do that, let me jump to the phones at 508-871-7000. Don in Stoughton has been waiting patiently. Good morning, Don. You look marvelous.
Yes, and gritting his teeth while doing so, but hey, for you, that's no problem, Joe.
I can't even guess. What is making you grind your teeth?
Oh man, I flamed out over Joe Biden. He ordered all the illegal aliens that are being held by ICE to be released.
Yeah, my next topic I was going to bring up was the lawsuit in Texas. They're suing the Biden administration over the memorandum stopping removal of illegal aliens was my next topic, but go ahead and vent on what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, Joe, why have the federal law allowing deportation if you don't enforce it? Then it makes the law superfluous. But my point being, Joe, is that with the Biden now administration being in office, those people who hold federal firearms licenses, now I have friends that talk to me and they say, hey, Don, on the federal firearms license form, renewal, etc., it says, are you in compliance with all state and local laws? Well, Joe, no state and local law can supersede a federal act of Congress securing a right. So if Massachusetts says, oh, well, you're a machine gun collector, well, you have to buy a Massachusetts machine gun license. But, Joe, if you hold a federal one, what does the state Massachusetts machine gun license do that the federal one doesn't already do? In other words, it's superfluous. Why do you have to buy a license to exercise rights secured in another license? And this is the insanity of where we are today. And furthermore, under Murdoch, the Supreme Court ruling from 1942-43, it states you cannot place a tax, a fee, a license, or permit on the lawful exercise of a right. So why does Massachusetts order me to buy a gun license when the Supreme Court of the United States, the same one that did Roe versus Wade, has already ruled that the states cannot do that, not even the federal government. This is the insanity. Go ahead.
No, we've had this conversation. I mean, as far as Massachusetts goes, it's they look at it as a source of revenue. It's just another way to tap into some money, and they count on and have been successful. And most people not even A, knowing what you're saying, but B, questioning it or challenging it.
Yeah. And furthermore, Joe, you stated the state seeks the extra money. That is called, and Richard would agree with me up in New Hampshire, this is called an unfunded mandate. In other words, the government requires me to spend money that I cannot deduct off my taxes. Oh, you want to own a gun in Massachusetts? You have to buy a license. Can I deduct that off my mass taxes? No, you cannot. If you buy if you have a firearm, you need to have a safe. Can I deduct the cost of that safe off my mass taxes? No, you cannot. Whoa. Those are unfunded mandates. Those are, not even the King of England would do that, Joe. And yet here we are today in Massachusetts in the 21st century doing unfunded mandates.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it always comes back to, okay, and how do we do this? You've told me
Joe,
it's impossible to win in court.
There's not enough money in the universe to buy justice in a Massachusetts or a federal court. The judges are the most stupidest people I've ever seen in action, and I've been in court as a plaintiff, defendant, and observer more than 50 times, and I'm just appalled at the level of stupidity of the judges. They have no understanding, no common sense. Well, going back to the Miller ruling in 1937, where Mr. Miller, a thug, had a sawed-off shotgun. He got arrested, and at the lower court in Arkansas, they said, well, that's a federally protected firearm. The prosecutor, the U.S. prosecutor there, objected, bumped it up to the Supreme Court, and at the Supreme Court they said, well, we don't know if a sawed-off shotgun, sawed-off rifle, or a machine gun could be used by the militia. So we're going to send it back down, remand it to the lower court so that Mr. Miller can create some sort of judicial record. The Supreme Court judge was too stupid to know that, yes, machine guns are used by the military, as are sawed-off shotguns and rifles, but not only that, they can be used for the common defense. And that's the Miller ruling. It's open-ended. They haven't got a solution to it yet. But, yeah, no, you cannot buy just... I mean, if you walked into a court today, Joe, with the Murdoch ruling and showed them that you cannot tax a right, the judge would probably just throw your case out of court. You'd be wasting money. And furthermore, Joe, when you're ordered, under the First Amendment, you have the right of redress. Does that not mean that when you go to court, you don't have to pay a cent in filing fees or anything else to have that right secured, correct? No. Those are unfunded mandates. You have to buy your time in court.
What is it that the
Aren't you glad I called?
And the Goal and all these other gun right organizations, they tend to have some money. How come they're not spending
I know that, Joe, but
that time and money in fighting these? Because if they won some of these, the way you lay them out anyway, they're very common sense arguments and should be victorious in a court. And if they, why don't we and I'm using the royal we here, the collective gun rights organizations fight these arguments? Why don't they spend?
Joe, I've brought this to the attention of Goal, gun rights organizations, the NRA, and that, and it's like talking to a wall. Nobody understands what I'm talking about. But gun owners say, "Jeekers, Don, that makes a lot of sense." The Murdoch ruling goes back to Pennsylvania, when a little town out there demanded that solicitors who were handing out Christian literature pay a permit fee for the right to do that. And that went to the Supreme Court. It was like a nickel or some stupid, cheap price. And the Supreme Court said, no, they're exercising a lawful right. That's the First Amendment. You cannot put a tax on it. That's why you cannot put a tax on newspaper paper and newspaper ink. There's no taxes on that when those organizations purchase same, because that's a tax on the First Amendment. Yet, you can put a tax and a license and a fee on the Second Amendment, which just blows me away. And I'm talking to you, Joe. You understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Try this in a court of law, you'll get nowhere.
Yeah. No, that's a perfectly good point, that there shouldn't be a tax on firearms or ammunition because of the Second Amendment, where the First Amendment, pays the way for ink and paper. I wonder how that translates to electronic media.
Well, I was going to go there too. If in electronic media, you should be able to deduct the cost of electricity, et cetera, that you use for the broadcasting. and equipment. That should be written off the taxes right on the top. But there is a tax on firearms and ammunition and such, but that tax is used, I think it's the Robertson National Park Act. In other words, we pay taxes on guns and ammunition to support wildlife areas. And that's the only tax. There is no sales tax or anything else, because you cannot tax a right. And it's funny, in Massachusetts, Joe, if you buy a safe or other safety equipment for your firearms, mandated by law, you don't pay the sales tax on it. Well, how is it, Joe, they recognize that, but they don't recognize the unfunded mandate of the demanded purchase itself, or the cost of a gun license, which is absolutely unconstitutional. You don't need a license to exercise a right. So not only the cost, but the license itself are unconstitutional.
Wow.
And yet I can scream this from the top of Mount Everest and nobody hears me.
It probably wouldn't.
It's like when yeah, but it was like when I was talking to, remember I was talking to you about the militia and that. The militia existed before the Constitution did.
Yeah.
And people say, oh no, the National Guard is the militia. I say, do they receive pay for their services? Yes, they do. They're not the militia. The militia still retains its Fifth Amendment right, even under arms. Duh.
Yeah.
Ah, gosh, Joe, I don't know what to say anymore. I'm losing sleep nights and losing hair, and I'm getting uglier.
Do you think that any of this is taught in school today? Any of this? Anything you're taught?
No. Joe, in 2015 in Stoughton High School, they had a Stoughton cop go down to the Stoughton High School to give a lecture on the Bill of Rights. And I glued my forehead to the television screen to listen to him. When he got to the Second Amendment, he says the Second Amendment is no longer needed because British troops are not marching down Washington Street in Stoughton. And then he went to the Third Amendment. That was his answer for the Second Amendment.
Wow.
I could not believe how ignorant the man was. Yeah.
Wow.
Because there's no British troops, you don't need guns. The Second Amendment is superfluous and no longer needed.
Wow. And
I even recorded the audio somewhere.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And
that was on public TV here in Stoughton.
I mean, we just had not just a few years ago, right? We had that big case that was you'll know it. I'm drawing a blank on it. Hillary Clinton in the debates really tried to tell us it was something that it wasn't. And it was the...
well, you had the Heller ruling from Chicago or Illinois, one of those states, yeah.
Heller ruling.
Yeah, well, in 1976, Joe, in 1976 here in Massachusetts, the Supreme Judicial Court ruled that the colonists violated the king's laws by taking up arms against the king, and therefore nobody has a right to keep and bear arms. 1976 here in I can't recall the case number offhand. I'll try to find it one of these days, and I'll quickly go through it. But the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts, it was a single justice ruling, ruled that nobody has a right to keep and bear arms. 1976. Wow. 76. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 1976.
I'll find that ruling, and I'll keep people on their toes. I'll dig that up somewhere.
All right,
but I mean, this is the insanity. This is what you face.
Thank you. It is crazy.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you for
Adios.
the education all the time. All right, folks. As we are continuing here with the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830, WCRN, our affiliates, and live streaming on the TuneIn app. Check it out. Don't forget, we're also live streaming on our Facebook page at Joe Mangie Show. So, Don made reference to, but there's a case that's out of Texas. And, before I get into that, actually, because it's breaking this morning, that the thousands of National Guard troops will remain in D.C. through March. About 5,000 National Guard members will remain in Washington through March, and according to a statement, they say that as we continue to work to meet the final post-inauguration requirements, the National Guard has been requested to continue supporting federal law enforcement agencies with 7,000 members, and they'll draw down to the 5,000 by mid-March. That's Major Murphy quoted as saying that. And it says, we are providing assistance such as security, communications, medical evacuation, logistics, and safety support to state, district, and federal agencies. All right. So tens of thousands of National Guard personnel poured into the nation's capital as you know, on Inauguration Day, the numbers over 26,000 were on duty as of January 20th as part of the heavy militarization of Washington. Now, Guardsmen's experienced really no security incidents, nothing that justified barbed wire and 26,000 plus armed national security people. There were 3 people were arrested on Inauguration Day. About 10,006 Guard personnel were on duty as of Thursday, and they're figuring out how to send them back to the states. Now, a lot of the governors really took issue when those pictures circulated of them sleeping on garage floors, right? And it was like one double bathroom, one outlet, things of that nature. Some agencies are requesting continuing operations, additional support, and reoccupation time for their forces to regroup. About 7,000 Guardsmen personnel anticipated to provide that assistance through the end of the month. Now, the District of Columbia Homeland Security person, Christopher Rodriguez, said that the same day that the city requested continued support from the Guard with traffic management and crowd control through the 30th, because they anticipated that there will be another national special security event occurring in the joint session of Congress. So they're thinking more trouble's coming. That's what they're saying. The number of troops needed will still being calculated according to them. But look, we had Governor Sununu, right? Chris Sununu up in New Hampshire. We have Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor. They're saying, hey, bring our guys back. Chris Sununu said, I've ordered the immediate return of all New Hampshire National Guard from D.C. They did an outstanding job serving our nation's capital in a time of strife and should be graciously praised and not subjected to substandard conditions. Now, the Guardsmen weren't the ones complaining. None of them complained. The Guardsmen, they've had worse conditions, but should they have these bad conditions in the Capitol or on American soil? This is ridiculous. I don't get that. It's wrong. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican of course, echoed the disenchantment of other governors with the way the FBI vetted the troops, right? That was the other thing. At least 12 that we know of, they were actually removed. And DeSantis said, it was time for the troops to leave this, in his quote, half-cocked mission. So then the legislators, now they're all right. Joe Biden went down with a basket of muffins or something, and Joe Biden called. And we have lawmakers offering their offices and couches and things of that nature. But anyway, that's the deal on the troops. So your capital is going to be militarized for a little bit longer. But what I wanted to get in, so this suit, right, Texas, and this has happened. I mean, they were preparing this long before Joe Biden took office, I guess in anticipation of what might be happening. But this is saying that, hey, this causes a lot of problems. So on Friday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sued the administration in federal court. And they did a little bit, I mean, they got a lesson from the Democrats here because they're doing a little judge shopping, right? That's what we've learned to do. We've been shown that it works. And what you do is you shop around your case and you find the jurisdiction with the judge that you figure is going to go along with you. So they took a page out of the Democratic activist book and they filed suit in the Victorian Division of Victoria, Texas, which is southwest of Houston. And they think it's just pretty much a matter of, judge shopping. And it's no different than what we saw the left do when they wanted to go after President Trump's executive orders or policies, right? Where did they always come out of? 9th District, right? That was always the case. Going to that Washington, Oregon area. So now there are only 2 federal judges in the Victoria Division that this could be assigned to. One is Senior Judge John D. Rainey. He was appointed back in 1990 by Bush 41. And the other judge in the Victoria Division is Judge Drew Tippin, and he was appointed by Trump in 2020. So, from the background, Judge Tippin looks, well, probably reliably conservative. So, this is what they're doing, allowing illegal aliens, as they're called by statute, and that's another thing, right? Joe Biden's making an effort, a move, to eliminate the word alien. And this is something that happens all the time with the left and the woke crowd. Don't they do this, right? They take a word that's the actual legal word, the word that's always been used, that's in the statutes, and they make it a bad word to use. And then so we have to get into our Orwellian speak again. We got to change the language. We got to dumb it down sometimes. But now there's a move to eliminate the word alien because it now has a negative connotation. But I asked you, why does it have a negative connotation? Who made it have that? And we could go through a bunch of words, right, that have this. But the problem with having that discussion about going through the words that now are bad to say is that you have to say those words, and it causes a bunch of strife when you start to do that. That's the irony of all this. But Texas suffers increased financial, this is their argument, folks, right? They will suffer increased financial cost as a result of the failure of the executive branch to follow the federal law with regard to deportation proceedings. See, a lot of these laws were just that. They were laws. And there were laws before Donald Trump came into office. But hating Trump and calling Trump a racist and a bigot then made the laws that he wanted enforced to kind of fall under that umbrella. And the thing about it is, he never created a new law. Let's think about this, folks. What law did President Trump create? He didn't pass anything in Congress. He just said the laws that are on the books we're going to enforce. Yeah, the laws that address aliens, defined by the statute of a non-citizen, is foreign to this land. That's the alien. So he didn't create laws. He just said, let's enforce the laws. We have a border. Let's enforce the border. This is where the woke crowd wants you to equate legal immigration and illegal immigration. They're the same thing as far as they're concerned. So if you are for illegal immigration, you're against immigration. And think about that, right? You can't be for immigration if you want open borders. Because migrating to the United States is a process. There is a process. There are points of entries, and there's a process, and they're there for reasons. And if you don't follow those reasons, if you don't believe in those reasons and in the laws, you're actually perpetuating some bad stuff. Because you're turning over immigration to coyotes and cartels. And Holman, there's a video out there, and I gotta tell you, in one of these congressional hearings when they had former acting director James Holman up there, and Rep Garcia goes after him and tells him he doesn't care about kids because they're a different color than him or they don't look like him. And he rips Garcia a new one because he's been on the border and he has held dying children in his arms. And he's opened these vans and trucks with people either dead or dying from dehydration and starvation. In excess of 30% of females by the coyote trafficking are raped in the process of the journey. When you tell them if you make it to the border and get across, you win. You're encouraging this dangerous path, and it's not a good thing. You got to really look at that. So Texas raises the issue of the Department of Homeland Security having signed a mutual assistance agreement, part of which obligated DHS to consult with Texas before taking any action that would increase the number of removable or inadmissible aliens inside the United States. According to the terms of that agreement, this includes adopting policies that would have the effect of reducing, reprioritizing, relaxing, lessening, eliminating, or in any other way modifying my immigration enforcement. We're running out of time, so I can't continue with this, but we'll pick it up at a later time. But that lawsuit's going on in Texas, folks. But this is going to wrap up the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. It does it for me for the weekend. I'll be back on Thursday on Making Money Last with Jerry Doherty for Political Thursday. And don't forget to check us out at TJMShow.com. And, hey, that's going to do me. Enjoy the rest of the day, folks. You have a fantastic time. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and this is AM 830 WCRN Full Service Radio.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester. 8 o'clock. Girton Graphics, offering a full line of apparel, including t-shirts, sweatshirts, golf shirts, caps, jackets, and other wearables to be screen printed with your organization's message, always at low wholesale prices. Girton Graphics also offers over 500,000 promotional items that can be customized to fit your needs. Working with Girton Graphics is always economical